Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to take a look at Deep Cover's brother, his police bot brother with Clampdown. He's going to be our focus from the Velocitron Speedia 500 series in the latest GotBot True review. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light up my baby. That's right, hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member at any time. And this is Clampdown. Yes, he is Deep Cover's brother. I believe he's the coordinator of the interplanetary personnel exchange program, I think it's called, and it's basically where some humans work with Autobots, I think on Cybertron, and some Autobots work with humans. He is prone to working with the Tokyo City Police Force, whatever it's called, and he has a human partner, Micheal. I can't remember Miko's last name. I know it starts with a T. A lot of his personality is black and white, which is kind of fitting for the colors that are here. But at its core, and when cast in plastic, it is basically a reuse of the Sideswipe, Red Alert mold. How successful is it? How good of a use is this? Well, we're not going to have to look at the transformation, but we will look at the paint apps, we will look at the accessories, we will look at the articulation, and we will talk a little bit about the tolerances and how well this guy actually fares. So without any further ado, how about we head over to the table and take a closer look at this bot. And so we motor on today through the Velocitron Speedia 500 Deluxes with our third offering, that being Clampdown. I'm not planning to look at the blur. I just don't need that mold again, and I'm not a big fan of the comics, so there's nothing there for me. If you want to know kind of what I think of the Studio Series 86, tooling, engineering, I reviewed that one and the Shattered Glass, so you can kind of check those out. Maybe I'll put a couple of cards up in the corner or some such thing. And it's an okay mold. It's not great. It's all right. But when it comes to the Velocitron Speedia 500 set itself, for me, Road Rocket, though I love the engineering, it was an abysmal failure because the tolerances on pretty much every joint were so bad. And then we had a big win with Burnout. So what about this guy? Well, in the packaging, we can see that we have him in vehicle mode, as we have with all of these. Nice looking vehicle up here for him. Here he is wrapped around the side again with his artwork, but a little clearer over here, and on the back, naturally, we do have his product images. I find it very interesting because these colors aren't exactly right. As a matter of fact, I look at it and I think to myself, I feel like parts of Red Alert would serve better on this guy, and parts of this guy would serve better on Red Alert, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. We have these nicely done instructions. Again, this is basically the Siege mold. They are two different molds because of reshelling, but if you know the transformation, you know the transformation. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people do, because the countdown question for last week was, actually it might have been the week before last now, by the time you're seeing this, was the top 10 best transformations, and the Siege iteration of this mold, well, let's just say it's done very, very well. So I don't think you need the instructions, but they're there in case you do. Our guy comes with one of these shoulder launchers again. A blaster, which you can also hold by the barrel. We have a hole up here, at the top, that you can put this light bar through, just like you would have done with Siege Red Alert. And it's a nice looking light bar, I guess. And here we have Clampdown in his vehicle mode, of course, that of a police car, a police Lamborghini, if you will, because you see those all the time, right? Way to stay hidden, buddy. I like to use the little triangle. I'll show it in a second, but I put these up here, even though The actual storage should be down using the 5mm pegs on the side, but for me, I like using these triangles up here, and the 5mm ports, 5mm pegs, do fit down there snug enough that you can have them on top of the vehicle. It's not great for storage, but I mean, it is what it is. This rolls just fine like every other version of the mold. In terms of accuracy, it's not bad. This, I guess, police crest, I guess that's what we'll call it. It's back a little further than it should be. It should be on the door, but the door is made up of like a couple of moving parts and whatnot with the hinge in there, so I understand why they moved it back slightly. Not hateful by any stretch of the imagination. The original did have like a red outline and a little gold in the middle, so I do wish we had those highlights. That being said, the one on the hood is a lot more accurate, so I absolutely like that. Otherwise, this is pretty darn good in this mode. Like, right down to the silver on the tires, if the robot mode is as accurate, then this would be fantastic. We don't need to do the transformation because we know it. We've seen it a bunch of times in the past. For this particular version of the mold, we've seen the transformation going from robot to vehicle with, I believe that was Red Alert, because I think I had Red Alert first, if I'm not mistaken. And I looked at him way back in episode 877 and actually compared it to the classics as well. So you can see the transformation in one direction that way. Then we have good old Sideswipe. And Sideswipe I looked at a little bit later as a part of the Battle Across Time set with Maximal Skywarp, and that was episode 916, where I did show the transformation going from vehicle back to robot. I'm pretty sure that's the order I did it in, because Red Alert did come packaged in robot mode. So we don't need to see it here. I feel like it works a little smoother than the Siege one, but it's funny, when I looked at Siege Red Alert, or Siege Sideswipe, I wasn't struck on the transformation, largely because the feet were just really tight on the copy I reviewed, and it made me uncomfortable. But much like with the Cliff Jumper Bumblebee mold, I think that there are varying degrees of success with this one. I'm going to give the transformation a solid 9.5 here, because I've done it with this guy and it works very, very smoothly. So it's one of the better uses of this mold as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to go from our boy looking like this to our guy looking like this. Now, to start things off, we have Sideswipe over here, and honestly, this is almost as perfect as I think you're going to get for a mainline. Naturally, the outside of his arms should have really the door sort of folded around him, so it should still be red, but it's not, it's white. Otherwise, the layout of the color palette on Sideswipe is pretty gosh darn accurate, I have to say. And I'm pretty sure I scored him quite highly. But then we get to the more interesting ones. So I'm going to take Sideswipe out of it, which would be Clampdown and Red Alert. And neither of these guys is really true to, I want to say animation in Red Alert's case, but really true to, I guess, the original G1 in Clampdown's case. Almost. With Red Alert, we should have a little more white on the forearms rather than the red. And his lower legs arguably should possibly be a darker gray, maybe even a black, depending on your take on it, right? Maybe at least a gunmetal gray. Should have been some black on his shoulders. So like Red Alert is a little off. And I did think about switching out certain parts, like maybe the lower legs. And I guess you could, but either you're going to have part of a car that doesn't match, because the lower leg on this guy has the police logo and the lower leg on this guy doesn't. It just has the black highlight. Or you could possibly pop pins if you really wanted to get the thighs the right color and didn't want to go through the hassle of repainting. Now, why do I bring that up? Because let's talk about the coloration now for Clampdown here. So starting from the feet going up, the feet really, and I have to, because there isn't an animation other than some comics that really harken to this, if we're going by like the original release, like in what, 2003 or whatever, like the collector's edition, it was an e-hobby thing, That's what we're going to measure up by, because that used the G1 mold. So starting from the feet, going up, the feet should be silver, they're black haired, that's okay. The legs being black with the blue highlight, that's cool. The legs here are gray, they should be red. The pelvis being black, the tummy being red is correct. The way the hood is done is really correct as well. The shoulders, again, by rights, like with Red Alert, the tire should be there, so we should have black on the shoulders, but I'm okay with the white because the mold is what it is, right? The arms being gray, well, they're supposed to be silver, but gray is okay. I have nothing against that. The head is pretty much spot on. The black blaster on his shoulder with the red cannony part out front, that's accurate. I'm going to say that for a version of Clampdown, this is pretty darn good. I feel like it would have been better had the gray thighs being used on Red Alert and the red thighs being used on Clampdown. I feel like had the thighs been switched around, both would be a little more accurate. That's why I mentioned everything about Red Alert. So, taking Red Alert out of it, we had a 9.5 for the transformation. I'm going to say that for the look of this guy, we're looking at, I'm going to say a solid 9. Really, the thighs should be red. The feet, like I said, should be kind of a silvery gray, but like both of those are pretty darn minor. I'll say a 9 because the most iconic thing is the chest, and they really did sort of nail that, if you ask me. So a 9, a 9.5, 9.25 so far, pretty darn good. What about the articulation on this version? We have a head that goes left and right. I guess up and down as well, a little bit. Arm all the way around, out to the side, elbow to 90 degrees, bicep swivel, the wrist goes in, no wrist rotation. We do have a waist rotation. We do have the legs able to go all the way back. We do have the legs able to go all the way forward. We do have a knee to, well, if you push it a little bit, you can almost get to 90 degrees. That's the one bummer with the Earth version of this mold, and this is probably why some like the Siege better, because the knee is just shy of 90 degrees because of the molding. Thigh swivel, ankle tilt, and I think that's it. I mean, it has everything but wrist, right? So again, because it has everything but wrist, I'm going to say 9.5, maybe even 9.75. Let's say 9.75. So we had a 9 for the look of the guy, as well as a 9.5 for the transformation. That equated to a 9.25. A 9.25 and a 9.75 for the transformation. Honestly, overall, this version of Clampdown, while not exactly perfect because of the thighs not being red, honestly, it's about a solid 9.5. It is another very successful use of a very popular mold. And here we are once again, and here he is, and yeah, I mean, okay, it's nothing new here. Either you like this mold or you don't. Some people prefer the Siege. I prefer the Earthrise, so I think this is a win. I like it. The tolerances are great. I do wish the thighs were red like they're supposed to be. Otherwise, I think the colors are pretty acceptable. Because, again, like I was saying with Red Alert as well, you can't really have the tires up on the shoulders because ideally this is for Sideswipe, who is admittedly a little bit different. Even though the mold was the same in plastic, the animation model was a little bit different. It's certainly acceptable though, and because they did nail the head and specifically the deco on the chest, it becomes very recognizable as the intended character of Clampdown. Is it absolutely perfect? No. Is it a very strong use of the mold? Yes. Is it a very strong rendition of Clampdown? Also, a yes. Yeah, I mean, you could, I guess, paint the legs, or you could change them out with Red Alert if you really wanted to. But again, like I said, if you're going to change them out, you're going to have issues back here because that's where the police badge is, and you got the extra little bit of black down there. It wouldn't line up the same, and the white isn't exactly the same sort of white. It's a stark white, but it almost seems like a softer white to the brilliant shimmering white that is Red Alert. I don't know, it's weird to try and explain it, but next to each other, and I don't know if it came across on camera, but next to each other, the Red Alert white seems a little brighter, if that makes any sense for white. Solid use. I'm happy with it. I mean, if you didn't like the mold before, nothing here is going to change your mind. If you did like the mold before, this is a terrific use of it. Let me know what you think about Velocitron Speedia 500 Clampdown. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through spring. Or, of course, you can hit the join button at any time and become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button. Stick around. Have some fun with us here on the channel. We do a lot of things. And don't forget, man, that somehow, some way, each and every single solitary day, you right there, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres or the old-fashioned way right here inside the videos.